Good morning guys. We're back at it again with another video. All right, so we're working inside the mechanical room, and these are the videos that are the portion of the build that I'm definitely most excited about, because it's something I've been dreaming and visualizing how I'm going to do for such a long time now. Before we get into it though, guys, I'm wearing my favorite work apparel brand here, True Work. This is their new flak jacket. So it's kind of like a fleece, but also like a jacket at the same time. So I layer a lot of their clothes just to, because in the mornings here in Arizona, it's real nippy out. So I even got a little toque on right now, but throughout the day, I can just take off some layers and not be too hot and be uber comfortable. So I've got a coupon code HM15. If you want to check out some of their gear, you can get 15% off directly off your order. Check it out. There is a link in the description box and in the comment section below. Let's see what we got going on though. So I got some temporary lights going on in here. Well, they're not temporary. They're going to stay in here, but just got them wired up temporarily just so that I have some light in here, just plugged into an extension cord. Easy peasy, guys. And when I'm doing stuff like this, I really like to organize and make sure I get all my fittings in place here, just so that when I'm installing, I can see, oh yeah, I'm gonna install a hose bib. Oh yeah, I'm gonna install a pressure gauge. Oh yeah. So I have everything laid out so nothing should be forgotten. And the water heater that we're going with here is this 50-gallon. It is a Rheem Performance Platinum. Sounds so fancy. So it's a hybrid water heater. So it's got this compressor unit on top here. These are super energy efficient compared to your standard electric water heater, but it's got this compressor on top that runs in like the reverse of an air conditioner, so it actually keeps the water warm while not actually having to turn on the heating coils in the unit. So what's cool with this is that it's got both an inlet and an outlet here. So you could take this outlet and pipe it into a conditioned space and it would be blowing out cold air. What we're gonna do with this instead of that is actually use the inlet here. So there's a special piece that I had to order so that I can run some duct work out of here. And we're gonna have an inlet going up the wall here. So it's going to pull in warm air, and then that's gonna be added in with the water essentially through the compressor. And then it's gonna blow out cold air right into here. So this mechanical room is gonna stay quite chilly in here probably. A lot of people on my Instagram are curious, which if you want to check out my Instagram, it's at handeeman.co. Links are down below, guys. Check it out. Why would I go with a tank water heater as opposed to a tankless? So this really is dependent on an individual situation. You know, what is going to be best for you? Is a tankless water heater going to be best, or is a standard tank water heater going to be better for you? So for us, since I want to keep this all electric, and the reason why I want to keep everything in the house electric is because I can produce electricity through solar. I cannot produce natural gas. I mean, I do in the evenings, but I don't know how I'm going to capture that and pipe it into this here. So I know I can produce electricity, so that's one reason why we're going with an electric water heater. Now, why wouldn't you go with a tankless electric water heater? Because the instantaneous demands of that is quite significant. So I think you typically want to run at least somewhere between a 60 amp to maybe a 100 amp circuit for an on-demand electric water heater, where this circuit, I believe we're just running a 30 amp circuit for it. So the instantaneous power demands is going to be significantly less with a unit like this. So if you're thinking about going off-grid, a tank water heater or a gas tankless water heater would probably be the best for you. But before we get going with our piping, we got to take some things into account here. So the washer dryer are going to go right here, and I marked out with tape basically the outline of where it's going to go. We're going to have our main shutoff for the house is going to be right in this area here. So I need to have access to that. So that's why we got to position the water heater a little bit further away from the washer dryer so that you can always walk back here and get that shutoff valves. You also have to take into account the door swing. So the doors on these guys, they swing kind of like this. So we're going to have space for that door to open. And the same thing on this guy, on the dryer, it opens up the other way. I think our washer or the dryer, I think you can swap the doors on them in terms of what side the hinge is on. I can't remember exactly. But I space this out so that if that door swings out like that, it shouldn't really run into the water heater here. So we're going to touch up the area right around here that we're going to be running all of our pipe, and let's jump into it. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm working on a system like this is to do all the threaded connections and get all those tightened up, get them all doped up, and then when it comes time to install, you just got to install. So it's just good to take a little bit of time, do your prep work, so that you can just have a much more kind of cleaner and more efficient install. So Uponor actually makes some really awesome transitional fittings. So what I'm doing here is we're going from 1-inch Uponor to 1-inch press, and so that means you basically don't need any threaded connections or anything like that to transition from PEX to copper. And this the Uponor system is an awesome plumbing system, and I might even do an entire video just talking about it, because I'm a really big fan of it as opposed to the crimp connections, and it just makes install a lot easier, and I'll go into other reasons why in a future video. But after our main shutoff valve here, I'm installing a check valve, so that if I'm working out in the yard with the irrigation system, none of the water from inside the house will filter back out through our main water supply line and go out to the irrigation. So everything will be trapped right in here, which is what I want. So the next thing that I'm installing here is a Streamlabs water monitor. What this does is it actually gets set up through an app with Wi-Fi, and it can basically learn and to detect leaks in your home. And what it actually does is it doesn't just detect the leaks, it's actually that unit there has a shutoff valve in it. So I believe if it detects a leak for more than 17 seconds, it'll automatically shut water off into the home. The other benefit of using one of those water monitors is that it also tracks water usage. And living on rainwater, I want to know exactly how much water that we're using in the house, and I'll be setting up another one of those water monitors in the pump house so that I can basically subtract the difference and know how much water is going out to irrigation and how much water that we're going to be using in the home. So that'll kind of be helpful for a lot of you if you want to live on rainwater in the future. I can give you a much better idea of how many gallons of water per year or per month that we're going to be using in this home. So after we tee off our main cold line here, we're going to want to shut off for the cold line going into the water tank. And an important part of a lot of domestic hot water systems is installing one of these thermal expansion tanks. So what happens if you have a check valve like we do is that there's no way for the water to move backwards. So as the water in the water heater heats up and expands, this expansion tank will allow the water to expand and not do any damage to the water heater or to any faucets or anything in the home. So a copper press tool like this is it is mucho dinero. Most plumbers don't even own it. But I wanted a certain look in here and I didn't want to have to solder everything, and I have other plans for the tool in the future as well. But doing all these solderless connections, man, oh man, it's definitely way more expensive, but it's a lot safer. And I also believe that the copper pipe should last a lot longer because you're not dealing with any flux or any solder with it. So the corrosion shouldn't really happen nearly as fast with copper pipes without the solderless connections here. One thing that I also installed here is a thermostatic mixing valve. I don't think it was really required for our system. But one thing that I like about it is that we've got a 50-gallon water heater. So that's as much water heater is going to stay in that tank. And the benefit of using a thermostatic valve like this is that it starts to mix some of the cold with the hot. So you actually end up getting maybe 60 gallons of hot water at a slightly lower temperature, as opposed to just 50 gallons at a much higher temperature. So a lot of thought and a lot of planning went into how I was going to run all these different pipes through the ceiling and stuff, and how I was going to make run the different conduits and stuff throughout here. So there's a lot of thought and floor planning that went into this, and basically at this point here I'm just executing what I already visualized and thought in my mind for quite some time here. So right here I'm just getting the hookups for the washing machine coming out the wall, and just teeing off of our main 1-inch lines there. All right, guys, so we got most of our hookups here done. We've got our hot outlet, we've got our cold inlet at the bottom there. So I just used some 12-inch braided cables and some elbows there, just so that I could get things to line up nice. The thing that I don't like about this water heater, and this is more of an OCD kind of thing, is that the inlet for the cold and the hot do not line up. Typically they're both on the top, and then you just come in through the top, but since this is a hybrid unit, it doesn't come in through the top, it goes through the side. So we've got the main hot coming up here and matching up with the cold line going up, picking up the washing machine, and then having these guys come up and just match beautifully with all the 1-inch conduit that I did. And then basically from here, we'll transition and go up to Uponor PEX. So I got some 45s, we'll finish that off, and you won't see basically that connection because it'll be right up in there. Two other things that I got to run is I just need basically a pipe going down for the pressure relief, and then there's also a condensate drain here. So we'll run the condensate drain to our little drain right there, and some of the code freaks are going to be like, you need a drain pan under your water heater. No, I don't. There's a floor drain literally right there. It'll be good, guys. It'll be good. And here's that special piece that I mentioned earlier that you need so that you can actually hook up ductwork to this. So I got the water heater at Home Depot, and I just found this on homedepot.com. The model numbers are listed with the instructions and the water heater and stuff, so you can find it quite easily. So I'll run that up. We're gonna go from 8-inch to 6-inch and just run a 6-inch line going out the side of the building. And then we've already got our vent there. So that's gonna bring in lots of awesome warm air. And we do need a bit of flexible duct just as an isolation point here. And that's pretty much it. But I'm also gonna be adding a recirculating line in here. So some of this work that I've already done, I'm gonna have to chop it out and redo it. I'll talk about the recirculating loop in another video when we're doing the full plumbing. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for watching. It's looking dope. Talk to you soon. Peace.